Hi everybody, I'm Sian and I'm a graduate civil engineer in the Water Resources business line at AECOM. AECOM are an engineering consultancy firm, and I'm just going to give you a little taster about what my role is, the path I took to get to my role, and any tips I can give you based on my experiences. So let's start from the beginning. I'm from Nottingham and I went to a state school in Nottingham and then to the sixth form attached to that state school to do my A-levels. The A-levels I did are maths, chemistry and physics. This led me to go to university to do engineering. I did a general engineering course at University of Oxford. This was 4 years long as it was a master's. I then got a graduate role at AECOM with the title of Graduate Civil Engineering in the Water Resources sector. I'll explain a little bit more about my role later on, but here's my office and here is my university. Before going to university, I always enjoyed science, particularly maths and physics, so engineering seemed a natural way to combine these two into a career. There's lots of different types of engineering, so the first choice was deciding which of these I would like to go into. I applied to mechanical and civil engineering degrees, but at Oxford they do a general engineering degree, which means for the first 2 years you actually learn about all different types of engineering, which is quite good as it keeps my options open. However, I was pretty sure after 2 years that civil engineering was the route I wanted to go down. But even after this, I still had more choices to make, as civil engineering is made up of many different disciplines: bridges, structures, ground, highways, water, environmental, etc. And this was the hardest choice for me, which of these I'd like to see myself having a career in. This can be quite difficult to do at university. Some lecturers are better than others. It's hard to see how to apply the things you learn at university to a real life job and where that might take you. So, at the end of second year, I was looking at internships. However, when I was at university between 2019 and 2023, COVID hit, which made getting an internship quite difficult. Luckily, I knew a family friend who was able to get me a voluntary role with the Environment Agency in the Flood and Coastal Risk Management team. Bit of a mouthful, but they looked at how they designed flood defences, pumping stations, etc., all within the water business. I'd never really considered this as an option for my career. I'd always thought would go into bridges or structures just because that's what a typical civil engineer would go into. So this was a real eye-opener. My role in the 3 weeks was to look at their business and ways in which they could reduce their carbon emissions. This was particularly useful because it gave me a real insight into their business, what they do on a day-to-day, and just how the business operates, really. It also gave me a couple of site visits, including to a Derby flood alleviation scheme and the one shown here at the Keedby pumping station. This was a live construction site, so I had my high vis on and my hard hat, which was really fun experience. I was also sitting on meetings, and I also had my own meetings with people in different sectors of the business, so I could ask some questions, which was really useful to give me a broad view of everything that goes on within that business and everything that's involved with flood and coastal risk management. I really enjoyed the internship, and it really gave me an insight into a different career path that I'd never considered before. So this was at the end of second year, and then at the end of third year I came to look for jobs. I saw a job at AECOM as a graduate civil water engineer. Now, I think before the internship I would have just glanced over a job like this because I'd never really considered it and I didn't know what it entailed. However, learning what I had in those 3 weeks made me realise that this was a possible career option, and not only that, one I think I would enjoy. So I applied and I managed to get the job, and here I am today. So I'll give you a little bit of a rundown of what my job involves. So we design sustainable drainage systems, or SUDs. There's some shown here on this slide. On the top right is a rain garden, on the top left is a bioswale, and in the bottom a detention basin. You usually see these outside of new housing developments. All of these work in a similar way, in which they capture water, usually from the highway. The water soaks through the soil layer, which treats it, and then it's stored in the bottom. The storage bit is important because during a storm, when the water goes down the drains, it goes into combined sewers, which means it's rainwater mixed with sewage. The problem with this is they often don't have enough capacity, so during a big storm, we have nowhere to put this water, and we end up the water companies discharge them into rivers and seas. You may have seen this a lot in the news. So designs like this are really helpful because it can store the water until the storm's over, and then the sewage systems have enough capacity to then take that water away, reducing the amount of spillage we have to put into rivers and seas. They also prevent flooding because they obviously take in water off the highways. They're quite a new technology. They're a lot greener than using pipes and drains. They're good for the environment. They look pretty. They look better than having a normal drain. They brighten up the highways. So there's lots of different benefits. Like I was saying, they're a new technology. We're working on lots of flagship projects. They're starting to be rolled out in mass numbers, when normally when in the past they've just been small and only a few in number because they're hard to model. So yeah, it's an emerging technology that's really exciting to be part of. One thing that was always important to me when choosing a career was that it was doing good for the world. I wanted to use what I learnt in university to make a positive impact, and I really feel like I'm doing that by designing things like this. The next steps for me, like I said, I'm on a graduate programme. So in 2 years, I'll finish this graduate programme and be classed as an engineer. A few years after that, I can become chartered, which means I sit in front of a board and they decide that I'm a competent enough engineer to be classed as a chartered engineer, which basically adds an extra level of trust to my status. A few years after that, I can become a senior engineer, and then after that, I consider other options, such as being a principal engineer, a project manager, a technical lead, contracts and bids, and finances. So there's lots of different ways I can go. I'm not pigeonholed down one road of being an engineer. There's lots of different things I can look into, which is exciting. So that leads me on to my top tips for you. Explore your options. Now this may be exploring your options within different types of engineering or different careers. I looked at medicine before deciding engineering. I looked at law. I looked at lots of different options before I decided that engineering was probably the best for me. But also, if you do decide on a certain career, look at the different ways in which you can go. For example, my company do BTEC level apprenticeships, degree apprenticeships, and we take on graduates. There's lots of different ways into the business that don't involve university if that's not something you want to do. So look at all your options. Use work experience and internships to your advantage. As you can see from my experience, the internship opened my eyes to a different line of work that I'd never really considered before. It can also, if you think you really want to do something, you could actually do an internship in it and think, actually, I can't imagine doing this as a job, and it can rule out a career for you. So they're helpful in both ways, so you definitely use them to your advantage. Do lots of research, whether that's into different companies or into what a career in that line of work would entail, or what you need in order to get there. For example, do you need a certain amount of work experience, or certain things that could add to your CV and enable you to get that job. All important, so do plenty of research before you dive into a job. Do something you enjoy. The reason I did engineering at uni was because I really enjoyed maths and physics. That was what led me there ultimately. It's always the best place to start. it meant I enjoyed my degree, and now I enjoy my job because I'm applying what I enjoyed at school into real life things. And believe in yourself. I went to a state school. I'm from quite a deprived area. I'm the first in my family to go to university, but I was still able to go, and here I am today with a good job at a good company. So I'm a bit of proof that anybody can do it if you just believe in yourself. So yeah. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that my story helped give you a bit of guidance on what to do and some important takeaways from my experiences.